lines, and that was my inspiration, and I took that and ran with it. I was working on Cocoon during the day, and I was conning my friends into helping me work at night. And we just threw it all together. Bill Sturgeon, Scott Ressler, some people from school, and walked in 2 weeks later with the Half Corps. Bill Stout gave it his seal of approval, said it was great, and Graham Henderson said, "Tony Gardner?" I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "Come into this room." And he sat me down in his chair, and he said, "What would you like your screen credit to be?" I was like, "I love this guy. This is the greatest experience in the whole world." And that was it. That was my experience. It was a very roundabout way in, and then during the course of the show, Bill sculpted a prosthetic on Linnea and asked me to finish it and mold it, and there were little things, half dogs and whatever. And it was truly, for me at least, one of those formative moments early in your life and early in your career where you say, I really enjoy this on so many levels. I enjoy the people, I enjoy the experience. It was like a career-defining moment for me. It really made me decide this is what I want to do for a living, and I'm not going back to college. And I never did.
I love that story, but he's like 6'2", 6'4" with a British accent. This is Graham Henderson. He's just terrifying.
Large and scary.
Large and scary.
Is Graham here tonight?
And then one other thing though, caveman. Tony does all the caveman stuff.
We just tons of stuff.
Well, yeah, he does tons of stuff, but the caveman stuff.
Graham, if you're here, stand up. No?
Right to the stage.
Okay. And I guess it won't hurt. The whole film, it was a very chaotic production.
Wait, ladies and gentlemen, Dan O'Bannon.
Working, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and after all these years, I've forgotten most of what happened. The special effects, we started with one effect unit. We lost them. Kenny Myers came in. Tony came in. It was very confusing to me. But the effects were getting done. But one of the highlights was when Tony brought in the half-woman corpse. I wasn't very optimistic about that. A couple of our earlier effects had been rather crude. We had to shoot around them. And I knew the importance, I knew the importance of the half-woman corpse. And, Tony brings this thing in. Now, I'm probably misremembering, but the way I remember it is he had like 2 days to make the thing. He brings this thing onto the set, and I could have just kissed him. It was just wonderful to look at, and it was articulated. It was a puppet. That was one of the great pleasures on that film, and there were a number of great pleasures, and there were some great agonies as well. That's, anecdotes. I'm such a blabbermouth. That's almost all I can remember over the years. But Bill Stout, it was a joy to work with Stout and his art department. The two departments that were the best. I was happiest with were the art department and the actors, the cast. I got along really well with the cast, except once when Clu threatened to beat me up, but that's okay.
We got your back.
And the bass that went
But see, that's good, because he's passionate about his work. And, I think I was pretty unpleasant myself a lot. I knew a lot about cinema. I didn't know that much about working with managing a large number of people. I went to film school. And in those days, film school taught the notorious auteur theory, which boils down to the idea, the notion that the director is supposed to know how to do everything, and he's supposed to tell every person how to do their job. He's supposed to tell the sound recorders how to record, cameraman how to shoot, everybody. And I took that seriously, and when I was in film school, I learned all of the different technical areas. I learned how to do them. I was ready to tell everybody how to do the job. When directing opportunity finally came along with Return, I went over the picture with that theory stuck in my head, and I tried to micromanage everybody, and I made a real pain in the neck of myself. And people weren't happy, and I didn't get what I wanted anyway. So they still did it the way they wanted to do it. And when Return was over, I had to radically reassess my directorial style, working with people. Next picture I directed, I took an opposite approach. Delegate, take it easy, let people do their job. But by that point, of course, I had already harassed the crew to return, just about to the end of their patience. But sometimes, the silver lining is that sometimes under stress and contention, sometimes really good work pops out. So I wouldn't necessarily tell another director they have to be nice. I know I couldn't go through that again. I mean, I ran myself ragged more than I needed to. It was a tough shoot. It was a very tough shoot.
I'm Bill Stout. I was the production designer in Return of the Living Dead. It wasn't my first film, and it wasn't my first film as production designer. I was actually a production designer for 2 years on an American Godzilla film that never got made, that Steve Miner was going to direct, that Fred Decker had written. It was a wonderful film. And but Dan offered me my first job as a production designer that actually made it to the screen, and that made me the youngest production designer in film history at that point. And it was an incredible experience. Working with Dan was great because Dan is a really visual person. I don't know if you know it, but Dan is a fantastic artist in his own right. And so whenever I had any doubts about design or direction of design, Dan would just quickly and meticulously do a beautiful diagram that would just tell everything graphically, and made my job a lot easier.
One thing you should mention is almost everything in that film was built.
Yeah.
There were almost no, the cemetery, every interior. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's funny. There are now Return of the Living Dead conventions around the country that just focus on this one film. And we premiered the film at a science fiction convention in Louisville, Kentucky, because the film takes place in Louisville. And I happen to be a guest each year at Wonderfest in Louisville. And every year I go there are people who come up to me and say, I know just where that was shot. It's just a few blocks away. Well, we shot everything here. Graham came up with a great idea, which was to take a warehouse, rent a warehouse that was not only where we built our sound stages, that's where our film offices were. So they served double duty. The graveyard was in Sylmar. It was an old olive grove. Unita Medical Supply was downtown Los Angeles in the Loft warehouse district. So it was all shot local. It's funny, I watch it when you're looking at the exterior of Unita with the entrance to the cemetery, and as soon as they step through the cemetery gates, they're in Sylmar, which is all the way across town. So,
I think that cemetery is particularly worth commenting on. We drove all over the place during pre-production trying to find a cemetery to shoot in. The real cemeteries in LA are extremely colorless. They're not interesting. They're just paved lawns with little markers. And I wanted a southern style cemetery.
Yeah, we researched them.
Yeah, lots of trees, colorful old grave markers. There is no such thing in LA. I said, okay, find me a patch of woods, and then we'll put some gravestones in. We drove all around, and that was when I really learned that Los Angeles is a desert. The only reason we have trees in this town is